Let's go to Chicago, Illinois next to BA. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Joseph.
Good morning.
Hi. I'm a teacher. I'm a nonviolent direct action activist, and I organize mutual aid. In fact, even tonight at 4 p.m., we're going to be hosting a mutual aid event in Chicago at Theater Y. But thank you. Yeah, there's going to be free clothes, decor, learning, and what I'm always trying to do. I take a lot of inspiration from Ella Baker. I learned more from her than most other people. And Barbara Ransby's book, Ella Baker and the Black Freedom Movement, is deeply inspirational to me. And I was wondering, because there was such wealth and wisdom and learning in the period of the Civil Rights Movement, going all the way down to today. And I'm wondering what stories, ideas, strategy, wisdom you might want to share with us to help us make it through this moment and help us build a culture of democratic, dialogue-based learning that can change the world and help people understand each other better. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for that question and intervention. I think the three things are always educate, organize, agitate, and I think you learned that from Ella Baker, who's the organizer of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. SNCC are the group of young, predominantly Black people, but who become joined by white and Latinx and others who are trying to bring small d democracy to Mississippi, Southwest Georgia, Arkansas, Alabama, and other parts of the United States in the 1960s. This idea of education is important. I think the story that we need to tell is a very, very positive story. And it's a story of transformation in the way in which the struggle for Black dignity and citizenship is the key, the central, the beating heart of American democracy. And I think that's the story that W.E.B. Du Bois's Black Reconstruction tells, that the Nicole Hannah Jones's 1619 Project tells, that the work of people like Bell Hooks and Audre Lorde tells, and certainly Ella Baker, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King Jr. tells. So I think if you share that story, and one thing I will say is that dignity is very important here. Malcolm X is the proponent of what I call radical Black dignity. Dr. King, radical Black citizenship. Malcolm argues that dignity is God-given and all people are born with dignity, which is why he pushes back against the need for external recognition of citizenship. All citizenship is the recognition by institutions, by laws, by nation states of our inherent dignity. So what we need to do is educate young people of all colors, of all backgrounds. And we can see this is very hard to do in a country that wants to book ban, a country that wants to have witch trials, right? This is more than just McCarthyism. This is super exploitation, authoritarianism, and a push towards banning of speech and banning of Black history, which is just American history. So it's the educate, but then it's organizing. I mean, I love what you said you're doing in Chicago, and we have to organize wherever we are for civic democracy, where it's small d democracy. This is not democracy that's Democrat or Republican. It's this idea of e pluribus unum, out of many one, and that we all have a voice in this democracy to share, and that our voice matters and our lives matter, right? So we have to organize and share in churches, in synagogues, in mosques. We have to organize with people who are straight, who are queer, who are trans, who are Asian Americans, who are Mexican Americans, who are Haitians, Latinos, who are African, who are white. We've got to organize with everybody. And then finally, the whole notion of agitation is very important. And I love that you said you were nonviolent organizer. You know, what Ella Baker does is school people, and Bayard Rustin does as well, on how to organize and agitate nonviolently and really change the world. And so you do have to agitate. You do have to say, I disapprove of book bans and DEI bans and DEI firings that happened right here at the University of Texas. I was one of the over 600 professors who signed a letter protesting that, but also we went out and protested, and people still got fired, but we made our voices heard. And we have to tell people, look, the anti-DEI push in the United States and the whole notion of anti-wokeness, this is the new Jim Crow, right? It's just like what Michelle Alexander has talked about with what happens in prisons, but this idea of some states saying that they're for DI, others saying that they're anti. This is just like the fugitive slave laws of the 1840s and the 1850s, where you have to know where you can go, where you can escape to, right? Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad. So we are back in those times. So we have to educate, organize, agitate, and explain to new generations and people who are of goodwill, who want to stand in solidarity beyond allyship, because allyship is convenience, right? Solidarity, I'm coming from a union background. My late mother was part of SCIU 1199 at Mount Sinai Hospital. I was on my first picket line in elementary school. And I'm coming from a union background, and the reason why we trusted each other is that we saw each other on the picket line. We were in solidarity with each other. And I'm old enough to remember when people carried thermoses filled with coffee and smoked endless cigarettes on picket lines in New York City on East 92nd Street. That's where I'm coming from. So I've seen how solidarity works, how it got us better health care, it got us better dental care, and it created a context where I could go to school, get my PhD, and write a number of books and teach and travel the world in a way in which I would have never imagined and never been able to do by myself. So this idea of changing and struggling together is really important. And finally, I'll say James Baldwin. James Baldwin is very important here. On the 100th birthday of James Baldwin, one of the things that he says in The Fire Next Time is this idea of facing this racial nightmare and achieving our country at last. And a lot of people misunderstand what Baldwin is talking about. Baldwin is not naive. He's not sanguine. He's not somebody who's just some kind of pathological optimist. Baldwin actually understands the promise and the aspiration of American democracy and the way in which Black people are the central players in that promise, right? And so all he's saying in The Fire Next Time is that here's what we could do together to reimagine America in a way where we can finally begin to ask the questions that get us to a new future. So what The Fire Next Time is a letter to the future, to us, to try to transform what he's calling that racial nightmare. But to do so, it's educate, organize, agitate.